Freedom of expression or freedom of speech is central to any democracy. The less freedom of expression there is, the less democratic a country is. Why is this? Democracy is best conceived as it was by Abraham Lincoln: a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Freedom of expression especially relates to Lincoln's third vision of a democracy: government for the people. Government for the people is government in the interests of the people. If citizens are going to govern themselves in their best interests, they need to be able to access important information and have the right to discuss that information freely. For these reasons, the First Amendment to the American Constitution was introduced, guaranteeing that the government would make no laws abridging the freedom of speech. A robust tradition of freedom of speech has developed in America since. This means that the people need access to a free media, and the people need to be able to talk to one another about government policies and all things social, legal, and cultural, so they can consider all sides of an argument and be fully informed. No one believes in absolute freedom of speech. People should not be able to incite violence, advertise misleadingly, publish national security information, or defame others. But the limits to free speech must be clear and narrow for a democracy to flourish. In democracies today, serious threats to legitimate free speech exist. Public debate in democracies often touches on sensitive issues such as immigration, national identity, religion, gender, sexuality, and culture. These issues are close to many people's hearts. For this reason, it is inevitable that people will sometimes be offended and even deeply upset by certain views that are expressed. Just as risks to yourself and others is associated with the right to drive, to play competitive sports, and even in choosing who to maintain friendships with. So, freedom of expression involves the perpetual risk that some will be offended, emotionally distressed, and even unfairly stigmatized. For example, if citizens are to have a public debate on immigration, this will inevitably mean that both positive and negative views on immigration and immigrants will be voiced. But it is impossible for such a debate to avoid offending everyone or to prevent some people from unfairly stereotyping others. But if the government then banned discussion of immigration for these reasons, it would be banning political speech and diminishing democracy. It is sometimes claimed that certain speech should be labelled hate speech and therefore banned. It's one thing to ban incitement to violence, but labelling speech that isn't clearly vilifying as hate speech is dangerous for several reasons. First, it may end up demonizing or even punishing speech on important but contentious social topics, such as race relations, spiritual truth, disadvantage, sexuality, and more. Second, it may make citizens worry about their speech falling on the wrong side of speech codes and therefore lead them to self-censor, what free speech scholars call the chilling of speech. Third, there is the further dilemma of defining hate speech. It might be argued that hate speech should be defined as any speech that offends someone else. But offence is a subjective notion. Someone may take offence even when no offence was intended. And definitions can easily become so broad that they include valuable political or cultural speech. And lastly, those eager to defend hate speech regulations may one day find them being used against themselves. Once the state is in power to regulate hate speech, it will unavoidably begin defining it in accordance with a particular set of views. Views that will be validly contested by others, and views that will likely change over time anyway. It is far better to simply protect everyone's freedom of speech, regardless of who is in power or what ideas are currently popular. Callously calling certain speech hate speech is bad for democracy because it makes it less likely that all valuable points of view will be heard, and therefore government for the people becomes more difficult. Another threat to free expression is the increasing tendency for some speech to be described as harmful or discriminatory. Of course, speech can be hurtful, but that doesn't mean it should be banned. Instead, citizens need to accept that in any robust democracy, things will be said that are offensive and hurtful. We need to cultivate a collective virtue of resilience so we can handle speech that deeply offends us or hurts us. And we must also cultivate the ability to speak back reasonably and persuasively. The alternative is to license governments, employers, and bureaucrats to impose speech codes that will outlaw and chill valuable speech required for a well-functioning democracy. Increasingly, in our polarized times, a great threat to free expression is not just from governments, but from fellow citizens attempting to destroy other people's reputations and careers via social media. This is called cancel culture. For this reason, we need to ensure that respect for free speech is not just between governments and citizens, but also between educational institutions, faculty and students, and also employers and employees. We need a culture of free expression. But freedom of expression is not just about political speech. It also includes artistic expression and religious and cultural speech, which are deeply connected to people's attempts to understand the world and share their views on it. Speech is at the heart of being human. Words facilitate wisdom and progress, as well as consolation and solutions in the face of the challenges we face in life. They feed our relationships, and they are the means of gaining ultimate truth. Freedom of speech seeks to ensure that a range of opinions can be heard so that people can be fully informed to make decisions of importance for their lives and communities. If democracy is government for the people, then the people need to be able to express themselves freely. A threat to free expression is a threat to people, communities, and democracy at large. We hope you enjoy this series on foundational freedoms. To help you explore these more deeply, check the reading list in the description below and the recommended videos on your screen. And please subscribe to the channel, like the video, click the bell icon, and share with others who may benefit from this content.